In this video, I'm going to showing you how to implement this Next.js internationalization, and we are going to use app router. And as you can see, we are going to follow along this documentation, and hopefully this video is really easy to follow. And this is what we are going to be building. Really simple. As you can see, by default, if I go to just localhost 3000, it should be redirect me into the EN, which is English for the language. And as you can see, all this content right here is basically English. If I change that to Indonesia, as you can see, it's changed. Even the navigation up here is changed. The title, the content right here, the footer is also changed. And also, as you can see in the road here, we on the ID now. And if I remove this, as you can see, if I hit enter, now it's still go to ID. That is because the value is stored inside the cookies. So let's go to application and then cookies. As you can see, we have next local called ID right here. If I change that to English, of course, it's changed that to EN. That's why if I remove this, it still go to English. So yeah, that's what we are going to learn, and hopefully by following this video, you'll be able to implement the Next.js internationalization in your Next.js app router. Alright, so without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so let's start with the create next application. So we can say npx create next app at lattice. Say yes for the TypeScript, ESLint yes, Tailwind yes, source yes, app router yes, import alias, I'm gonna say no. Alright, so let's just wait for that. Alright, so now it's success. So let's cd into the next lingo folder, and from here I'm going to open that inside Visual Studio Code. We can say code and then dot. It will open the Visual Studio Code like so. And then the first thing is what we need to do. As you can see here, we have two options. We are going to use this app router. So the first thing, we need to install this Next-Intl package. So let's open the terminal, and I'm going to paste that right here. So hit enter. Let's close this welcome message right here and just wait for that until it's done. And then as you can see here, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see. So we need to create this folder here, file, i18n.ts and the middleware.ts. And also we need to create these messages right here. Basically, you can put the messages or anywhere you want, but we are going to follow along just this documentation. Alright, so now let's try to say npm run dev to run the localhost 3000. And let's open that. I'm going to close this. Alright, this is the default page for the Next.js. So now let's remove let's go to global first, global CSS. I'm going to remove all the root right here. And also I'm going to remove the favicon. We don't need that. And let's go to the page here. I'm going to remove all this content inside the main. Let's get rid of that. And I'm going to say heading 1, let's say app. Just like so. And then now we should see app right here. Nice. So the first thing is, let's go to the documentation. As you can see in the root directory, we need to create the messages. Just like the documentation here. So let's create the messages folder, and inside of that I'm going to create en for the English JSON, and also I'm going to create ID for Indonesian JSON, just like so. Nice. So we are going to just copy the content for now, go to English right here, paste that like so, and I'm going to copy this, go to the id.json for Indonesian, and I'm going to change this title to Halo Dunia. Right. Nice. So let's go back and let's go to nextconfig.mjs. This one, I'm going to basically just copy all of that and paste that right here. So as you can see, this is basically will wrapping this next config with variable here, which is with Next-Intl. This is come from the create Next-Intl plugin, from the Next-Intl plugin package. All right. So let's go back. We need to create this file here. So we need to create that basically inside the source and the same level with the app directory. So let's go back to source and let's create a file called i18n.ts, and then the content is this one. So we need to just copy and paste that right here. So this is basically the locales that we are going to use. enrde. This is basically will be becoming the root of our application. For example, if I go to /id, it should be available. If I go to ./en, it should be available. So now I'm going to remove this to id like so. And then as you can see, if the local include this one is not found, right, it will return not found page. As you can see, the messages is going to be come from the messages/local and then .json and then default right here. Of course, you can put your messages here to anywhere you want, and just make sure you change this directory right here. Nice. So what the next thing we need to do? Let's go back and we need to create the middleware.ts file. So let's copy that, go to source, create file, paste that right here, and then we need to just copy all of this. Copy that, paste that in here. So, and the locales that supported is basically English and Indonesia. By default is English, and of course the match only internationalized path names is gonna be ID and English. Alright, I think we're done with all of this, and then now we are going to just close all the tab right here. And then what we need to do is inside the app right here, I'm going to create a folder called locale like so, and just like the documentation, I believe this one, as you can see. So inside in here, I'm going to create layout, but instead of create that, I just want to copy and paste come from this source right here, which is the layout and also the page here. I'm going to move these two files inside the local. Let's move. Oh, I forget the global CSS. So let's also copy that and paste that to local right here. Nice. So now if I go to the localhost 3000, let's try to see. As you can see, we get this warning here. That is because these two files here, i18n and .ts and also the middleware, it should be inside the source, but same level with the app. It's gonna be look like that. So let's try to say npm run dev again, and hopefully now it's working. So as you can see on the road here, it's redirect us into the en road. So I'm going to remove that and hit enter. As you can see, it's still en. I'm going to remove and change that to id and hit enter. And I'm going to remove the id and I hit enter. As you can see, now it redirect us to the id. So basically the value is stored inside the, let's see, on the application, and then cookies, and then this one, next local. So the next application store this value inside of this cookie right here. So now I want, when I go to the random something in here, the app, it should be not found. As you can see on the i18n.ts, it should be returned this not found here, but it's not working for now. That is because inside the app, we don't have layout. So let's create the layout inside the app. So I'm going to say layout.tsx. So as you can see, the layout, it should be same level with the local folder right here. Okay, so let's just copy all of this inside the local. I'm gonna paste that right here. So now I'm gonna remove all of that, and then here I just want to return children in here, just like so. So now it's still working. So now we need to create the not found. So let's say not found.tsx, and in here I just want to copy and paste this simple not found component. As you can see, this is just returning h1. Let's say something went wrong. As you can see, when I save and reload, still not showing this error. I'm not sure. Let's go to app here, and maybe we need to create the page. All right, so let's say rfc, and then in here I'm gonna say root page like so, and then for this return I'm gonna remove that, and we can say redirect into /en by default. So now if I go back to the browser and let's hit enter, as you can see, we still get this app here. We're not showing this not found here. What the problem? So let's just close everything and go to source, and then I'm gonna go to my local and then page here. So in here, I just want to try to use the use translation. So let's try to say const t set equals to use translation come from the Next-Intl, and in here I'm going to use the, let's see, in the message we are going to use this index key right here. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in here. So now if I save, as you can see, now we see something went wrong. So now this package knows that this route here doesn't exist on these locales here. So that's why we get this warning here, something went wrong. This is basically rendered from this node found right here. So of course we can say class name text to center. Let's do class name margin top 10 and also font to semi bold like so. And as you can see, it's a little bit look nice. Great. So now we know that if we typing in the road here something that doesn't match with these locales, with this really hard to say this one, these locales right here, it should be returning error, right? If I go to just for the root, and it will redirect us to the English version. So now I'm going to inspect this and see on this HTML here, right here, the language is English. But if I change that to ID, as you can see, it's still English. That is because on this layout, we not specify these languages here. So we need to grab that from the params, of course. So here we can say params. Of course, we need to set the props first. Param set equals to an object, and we can grab the local right here. Why local? That's because the folder name is local. If you change that to language, of course you can use the language right here. And the local, it should be string like so. And of course you can use, for example, props, root layout props to just put all of this. Let me showing you here. I can say interface root layout props. And I'm going to paste that right here, and we are going to use this interface in this object right here, just like so, and it still work. And I'm going to change the en right here to the local come from the params. So let's put that right here like so, and now as you can see, it's going to be ID. If I change to en, it should be English. Great, it's working. Now we need to just add some styling in here. So I'm gonna remove this children, and inside this body here, I'm gonna create a div with the class, let's say display flex, and also I'm gonna add the flex column into this div. Also the minimum height, I'm gonna say screen, which is 100 view height, and also the maximal width, I'm gonna set that to, let's do for XL and MX to auto to make it the content into the center. And then basically in here, I'm going to render the header. So let's do H1 for now. Let's say header, and under in here, we have another div. And this is basically the children. So I'm gonna say class name to flex grow, and also the margin top, I'm gonna do 20 and put the children in here, just like that. And now, as you can see, we have the header on the top, and here we have the app right here. Great. And maybe down here, we are going to put some footer, maybe something like that. As you can see, the footer is going to be down here because we set this to flex grow in this children here. Right, we have the header, app, and then also the footer down here. I just want to console log that so you can see what is t mean. So t is basically just a function. I can grab the title, for example, like so, and as you can see, we get the hello world. Nice. So here I'm gonna say t and then title in this h1 right here. So I'm gonna save, and as you can see, we have hello world. And then if I go to ID, as you can see, hello dunia. Really cool. So now I'm going to update the messages value in here, the English and then the ID. So let's go to with the English first. I just want to copy and paste come from my final project and paste that right here. Close the terminal. As you can see, for the index page, we have the title description. For the not found page, we have this title description, navigation, and then the footer down here. All right, so now let's go to the ID, and of course we need to just paste that right here as well. But make sure if you create these two files right here, just make sure this key here, it should be same. The index page, title, and description, should be same. If you put not found page, you should put not found page right here. You cannot do something different and this, maybe you say homes and you say home right here. It's not going to be work. So let's close that. And now it should be index.title. That is because now we don't have this index here. We have just index page. All right, as you can see, we have contoh Next-Intl because we on the ID here. I'm going to change to en, and as you can see, we on the Next-Intl example. But instead of just returning h1, I'm going to returning div in here. So let's do div, and then inside in here, I just want to put paragraph, and let's put the t, and then I'm going to render the description just like so. Let's styling this h1 a little bit. I'm going to say class name text to 4XL to make it a little bit bigger, margin bottom to 4 to make it space, and also font to semi bold. Let's save and let's take a look. As you can see, it's look nice. Great. If I change this right here, ID, it's changed. If I change to en, it also changes the value here. Great. So now let's working with header, because in the header here, in the right here, I'm going to create something like select drop down to select the language that we want. Nice. So now we are going to create the header inside the components. So inside the source, I'm going to create folder called components folder, and inside the components folder, I'm going to create header.tsx. So here you can say rfc, and let's remove the name, and I'm going to change that to capital H right here, and then just use that inside the local layout and just render that right here. So we can say header just like so. So in this header here, I'm going to just remove this div. I'm going to use header tag like so, and inside the header tag we have a nav, and inside this nav we have basically a link come from next link, and this is basically home, and then I'm gonna say href is gonna be / like that. As you can see, we have home right here. And if we on the Indonesian language, of course I'm gonna change this to something like beranda, as you can see right here. So of course we need to grab this navigation home. So let's go to header, and how do we get that value? Is pretty simple. We can say const t set equals to use translations, and then put the name of the key right here. I'm going to use this navigation. So let's bring this navigation right here, and then now we can use it right here. We can say t, and then put the name home right here. So we can say t and then home. Now we should see home right here. If I change that to ID, it should be beranda. Great. So let's styling this a little bit. For the header, I'm going to say class name to padding 4 to make it space. And the nav, I'm going to say flex, item center, and justify between to put this link home on the left and this local switcher on the right here. This basically will becoming the drop down. So let's create a component. Inside the components folder, I'm going to say local dash switcher like that .tsx, and let's do rfc, and then let's remove the name to local switcher like so, and we need to render that inside this nav here. So let's do local switcher just like so. Instead of div, I'm going to render a label, and this label here, let's remove the HTML4, we don't need that. And this label here is basically have class name called, I'm gonna say border to 2, and also rounded. Let's say rounded like so. And inside this label, I have p tag. This is just for tags. Maybe the select's not showing up. I'm gonna say let's do change language like so, and I'm gonna say class name into this is basically for source only, and also down here we're gonna create the select. Let's do select like that. You don't need this name and ID. Let's remove that. And inside this select, I'm gonna put the option. So the option here, basically for now we just have two option, English and Indonesia, right? So you can say English and copy and paste this. This is gonna be Indonesian. And for the value, we can say ID. Alright, so let's take a look. As you can see here, if I refresh, we have this English, and as you can see, we have this drop down here. Great. And you can just add some class name in here if you want. You can say class name to background transparent. Also the padding vertically, I'm gonna say 2. Inside the select here, I also want to add the on change. So let's do on change, and I'm gonna say on select change. This is the function that will handle the change on the select here. So let's create the function. So I'm gonna say const on select change set equals to arrow function. And because we're working with TypeScript, I'm gonna grab the event and give a type in here. This is gonna be change event. And then I'm gonna put the HTML change, not HTML change, HTML select element, just like so. And in here I can say console log e.target.value. Alright, so let's take a look. We cannot use a function inside the client, inside the server component, so we need to change this to client component. Great, so we can say use client, just like that, and it should be work. So now I'm going to open my console here and just try to switch. As you can see, we have ID, en, ID. Nice, it's working. So in this function here, what I'm going to do, let's say const. I think we need to just got this value here, and I'm going to create variable call. Let's say next local, and then set it equals to this value. And then I'm going to say start transition. The start transition is going to become from the use transition. So I'm going to say const use transition, like so. And then inside the use transition, we can grab the star transition. And now we can use this inside in here. We can say start transition, and then we can put as a callback the router. So here I'm going to say const router set equals to use router hooks, come from next navigation. And basically in this callback here, I can say router dot replace. So basically what we need to do is just replace this route here. When user go to Indonesian, it will replace the value here to Indonesian. If user go to English, it will replace the route to en, just like that. So now let's say router dot replace, and then I'm going to do backtick in here. Let's say / and then I'm going to do next local, just like so. We get this warning here. That is because in here we need to grab the is pending. Alright, so if you not use this use transition, it's still working, by the way. So I'm going to comment this one and just comment this one as well. So now let's try. So I'm going to refresh this and just zoom out so you can see. Zoom in, I mean. So as you can see, by default is Indonesian, right? I'm going to change that to English. As you can see, we're on the en right now. And Indonesian, it's also still working. As you can see, the text is changed. I mean, it's working, right? Great. But as you can see, if I on the Indonesian and I refresh here, the value on this select here is changed that to English. So we need to set the default value, of course, in this select right here. I'm going to add the default value into the default local that active. So how do we get the local active? We can use local hooks. So here we can say const, I'm going to say local active set equals to use local, come from Next-Intl, and this is basically will have the value en or id. It depends on the route that active in here. So I'm going to put that right here. Nice. So let's refresh. As you can see, the default now is Indonesian, If I change to the English, it should be English. Indonesian should be Indonesian. When I refresh, it's still Indonesian. This is pending right here. It should be putting inside the select here. And we can set the disable when is pending is true. That means when we change this and there's pending, we need to just make sure this select here is disabled. Nice. So what the next thing we need to do is, let's do with this footer right here. So let's go to components and I'm going to create file called footer. And here we can say RFC. And I'm going to change the name to footer like so. And then I'm going to close others and then open the local and then layout.tsx. We need to render the footer in this layout. So we can say footer like so. Nice. Let's close that. And now let's working with the footer component. And in here, basically, again, we can say const t set equals to use transition. And then what we need to get in here. Simple. You can go to the JSON file. And as you can see, we have the footer here. Of course, we need to grab the footer just like so. And then in this div here, I'm going to render a p tag. And then I'm going to return a t and then put the string, what the string we need to use, which is copyright. Copy that, paste that in here. So now, as you can see down here, we have that value. Really cool. We can just make sure this is going to be on the center. We can say margin top, margin vertically to 10 and text center. Just like so. And now it's in center right here. If I change to Indonesian, as you can see, oh, still footer right here. I'm not sure why. Oh, this one. I think we need to just refresh the browser. Yep, it's working now. But I'm going to mention this. This is just working with the server component if you follow along this tutorial. But if you want to put this right here, this transition into the client component, you need to just follow along this documentation here. It's pretty easy to follow along basically. This is the documentation, as you can see, using internationalization in client component. We can pasting translation to the client component. Basically, this is the server component, and then the value you send that into the client component. It's working. And also the option 2 is just moving state to the server side. This is also working. As you can see, this is the way how you do that. And also the option 3 is providing individual messages. That means, for example, you want to wrap this footer here with use client. You need to wrap that with Next-Intl client provider, just like so. Or maybe you need to wrap all the component inside the Next-Intl client provider is also work. That's the 4 options that you can use for access the messages. This one, the messages here inside the client component. If you want, maybe we are going to create another video about that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I think now we're done. Hopefully this video helpful, and see you in the next one.